of you who don't already know him, was Secretary of Agriculture for the state of Delaware from 2001 until September 2008, when Governor Ruth Ann Minner named him her Chief of Staff. From 1996 to 2001, Scuse served as both Chairman of the Kent County Regional Planning Commission and Chairman of USDA's FSA State Committee. Prior to that, he served as Kent County Recorder of Deeds. While Agricultural Secretary for Delaware, Scuse served as President of the Northeast Association of State Departments of Agriculture, and also successfully eradicated avian influenza from broiler flocks with the assistance of the University of Delaware and the state's poultry industry. Outside of politics, he has, along with his brother, run a successful grain operation out of Delaware for 35 years, is an active member of Ducks Unlimited and the Quality Deer Management Association, and shows registered paint horses. Please join me in welcoming Acting Undersecretary Michael Scuse.
Thank you, Rebecca. Every time someone reads that, it sounds like I can't keep a job. I hope that's not the case this time. You know, Washington's a very interesting city, but I'm here to tell you, as Dorothy said in Wizard of Oz, there is no place like home. And I enjoy being back here today, so I want to thank you for the invitation. And good morning. And again, I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I want to thank Governor Markell and the great state of Delaware, along with Delaware Technical and Community College and Mark Brainerd for hosting the event today. And it is, in fact, an honor to represent USDA on the NEI Small Business Tour. I'm particularly glad to be here, not only because Delaware is my home, but it's also a U.S. agricultural leader. As the former Secretary of Agriculture here, I know well that for thousands of Delawareans, farming is not just a livelihood, but it's also a way of life. And there are nearly 2,500 Delaware farms covering almost 500,000 acres of land. And in 2009 alone, those farms generated total cash receipts of over $1 billion. And I know recently the University of Delaware released a study that I believe showed that those farms are responsible for about $8 billion in economic activity. International trade has become a major factor in Delaware's agricultural success. Farm exports sales reached an estimated $240 million here in 2009. And of that, $120 million was from poultry, making Delaware the United States' 12th largest poultry exporter. It's the robust agricultural industry here and the nation that's helping the United States rebound from the worst recession in decades. Make no mistake about it, agriculture is leading the way to economic recovery. Just this week, the trade numbers for the first 6 months of fiscal year 2011 were released, confirming that we are on track to export more than $135 billion in agricultural products this year, smashing all previous records by over $20 billion. Press release just went out on the 11th of this month, indicating that this year, in 1 month, we've exported a record $13.3 billion in agricultural products. In these trying economic times, make no mistake about it, this is in fact great news. After all, for every $1 billion in agricultural exports, that supports almost 8,400 jobs. But to build an economy that works not just for today, but for future generations, we must help our agribusinesses continue to grow, innovate, and outcompete the rest of the world. As we work to achieve this, USDA is well aware of the challenges that the nation's small and medium-sized businesses face in pursuing global trade. These businesses represent about half of all employment and economic activity in the United States and have much to gain from expanding U.S. agricultural exports. In support of President Obama's National Export Initiative, USDA is reaching out to farmers and agribusinesses of all sizes with information about how to tackle the global export market and get them the financing that they need to succeed. Under the NEI, we are improving trade advocacy and export promotion efforts. We're knocking down those trade barriers, enforcing our trade rules, and pursuing policies at that global level to promote strong, sustainable, and balanced growth. We continue to fight to expand access to export markets for farmers and agribusinesses countrywide. An important next step is the 3 major trade agreements awaiting congressional ratification: the South Korean, the Colombian, and the Panama. What these agreements ultimately will boil down to is opportunity. When all 3 are finally implemented, USDA estimates that they could expand agricultural exports by more than $2 billion a year. And that translates, ladies and gentlemen, into thousands of American jobs. Korea is already one of the United States' most important trading partners. Last year, we sold $5 billion worth of agricultural products to Korea, making them the 5th largest export market. In fact, we provided almost 30% of Korea's agricultural imports. Once the Korean free trade agreement is implemented, these gains will only increase. Nearly 2/3 of U.S. agricultural products will gain immediately duty-free access to the Korean market. The poultry industry, which makes up 72% of Delaware's cash receipts, stands to benefit enormously. Once the agreement is ratified, Korea's tariffs on frozen poultry parts, which is now as high as 27%, will ultimately be phased out. The pending Colombia Free Trade Agreement is also good news for our exporters. Upon full implementation, the agreement could help U.S. farm exports increase by almost 45%. That means an additional $370 million a year for U.S. producers. And finally, the trade agreement with Panama will also generate significant gains for our producers. Once in place, U.S. exporters could gain an additional $46 million in annual sales on a variety of U.S. agricultural products. But in order to reap the enormous economic benefits of these 3 agreements, Congress must act quickly and get them ratified. Otherwise, we risk losing out to our competitors who are negotiating their own trade agreements with these countries. The truth is that until these agreements are complete, U.S. agriculture will not have a level playing field in any of the important markets. President Obama has been clear about his commitment to swift completion of the Korean agreement, as well as the Panama and Colombia free trade agreements. These are a critical part of the administration's efforts to open foreign markets to U.S. goods and services, and to create jobs here at home for all of our workers, our farmers, and our businesses. We hope that these initiatives will be a huge benefit for all. I have the utmost faith that America's farmers, ranchers, growers, and the businesses that support them will continue to help feed our nation and add jobs to our economy and reduce our trade deficit as they have for decades. As we work to build a stronger American economy and win the future, don't be surprised if they are the ones that will continue to lead this nation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.